Hey guys, how is everybody? Hope everyone can hear me. Hope you're all having a good Friday. Thank you for joining me tonight. It feels good to be back. Feels good to be back. And today is a very special day because we have two very cool people. I consider them friends. They are both part of UAP Media UK. We've got Dave from Shadows of Your Mind magazine, and we've also got the very awesome, very cool Zignal, who's an artist and UAP activist, I'd say. But let me add them real quick. Hey, what's up, Dave?
Hey.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How
are you?
Yeah, pretty good. You?
I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm happier. I mean, I'm good now. I'm better now than I was earlier, now that you guys are here.
It's been a bad week.
It's been a bad week? Really? It's been a pretty wild week. What do you guys think, man? I can't keep up with everything that's going on, to be honest.
There's been a crazy amount, right? Do I have a list? Do you want me to go through it?
Yes, please.
So, well, this isn't just this week. So we had the Acorn photo, then we had Rubio, Warner, then we had the stuff with the USS Kidd, Jeremy Corbell, and the USS Omaha. Then we had comments from the Defense Secretary, the CIA director. Then we had the pyramids, or the reported pyramids, which we're meant to be getting more of. Then we had this whole new big wave of MSM reports, and then we had that glorious New Yorker article with that great podcast. Then we had a whole bunch of new Lou Elizondo interviews. Then we had the announcement of the Inspector General's investigation into the DoD's handling of the UAP issue. Then we had Chris Mellon on Rogan for a delightful few hours. Now we've had this whole thing with Ballet's book, and we kind of get another author added. So yeah, what's next? I guess I can't keep up. I'm sure I've forgotten some of the things there. Oh, and the Mars mushrooms as well. We can't forget the Mars mushrooms.
The Mars mushrooms. On that note, I don't know if I'd ever try any Mars mushrooms. I just feel like that's just too much. Hey, today, as you know, I already filmed this with Dave like a week ago. I had Dave on, and I was gonna have a conversation with him. We talked and everything. We did everything, but I had a person ringing my doorbell for like 15 minutes, and I'm sitting here like I can't get up to get the door, and they just keep ringing the doorbell. It was actually the doorman trying to give me another key. So yeah. So thank you for being here again, Dave. And everybody's here, man. In the live chat, there's a bunch of you guys here. I see Joss is here, Sofa, Sasha. Look, somebody from the UK showing love. They're saying
being live.
I know, right? I'm not used to having awesome people like you on here. So this is awesome. And now we're using StreamYard, so it's just super easy. I think we could even like throw in random guests and just do this all the time. So if you guys are ever free, don't think of this like as like an interview or anything like that. It's us hanging out, talking about the phenomenon, learning a little bit more about each other, and basically doing what we should all be doing. And it seems like it is kind of what's going on. Like the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Luis's channel. If you guys haven't checked that out, all the links to almost everyone's channels is down in the description of this video, because I'm trying to make sure everybody gets seen. But yeah, everyone's talking. And let's talk about, just to kick things off, let's talk about Chris Mellon on Joe Rogan. Did you guys see that? Did you see it, Dave? I know Dan saw it.
Yeah, I had it like on in the background this morning when I was at work. So I couldn't fully concentrate on it, but I did watch the interview we did with Terry Virts, the astronaut. That was a really good one as well, because you have this NASA astronaut who knows virtually nothing about the UAP subject or what's been going on the last few years. And he's asking like the kind of questions that the general public will be starting to ask. and Chris Mellon was just answering them in, you know, his typical laid back, suave style. You know, say, oh yeah, this happened and this happened, and but you know, we got a handle on it, and we kind of starting to figure out where it's all going. So, you know, by the end of it, you could feel that Terry Verts, Astro Terry, his YouTube channel is, he was kind of getting, you could see he was going to get more into the subject and possibly research it a bit more. So that was really good to see all that.
Terry Verts was he was on Joe Rogan before, for an episode. I'd highly recommend people check that out. He gives a little insight into kind of what it's like to travel in space, and he said something that stuck with me. I've forgotten the whole other like 3 hours of the interview, but he was talking about things that people don't think about when they go to space, and he said you kind of have to train your brain not to react like you would when you fall, because you're always having that falling feeling, because that's what orbit is. So every second your brain's going, you're falling, grab something. And you've got to kind of train yourself out of that reflex to grab onto something as if you're falling. I thought that was pretty cool. But Joe Rogan did mention UAP during that interview. So Terry fibbed a little bit. It wasn't his first foray, but he's definitely like you said, asking the questions that the general public will be asking.
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. And do you have a link to that? Because I haven't seen it. So if you find a link, share it, guys, in the chat. I want to watch it. You told me about it. You said that we should watch it, but I watched Rogan and I watched it twice to try to like really take it in.
And I didn't do my homework. Yeah.
No, we both did different parts of the project, so it's fine. Yeah. But what did you guys think like of sort of his origin story? I thought that was crazy. Like I hadn't heard it before. When Joe Rogan asked him, so how did you get into this topic? And then he says, if anybody hasn't seen it, I'm about to spoil some stuff for you. So I'm very sorry. But he basically said that he went to some, I think it was like a private school or boarding school.
Yeah,
and they showed him a video of a UAP or a golden saucer. And it was just like clear and he could see it. And I was like, wait a minute. So let's figure out what school he went to. Let's see if we can find like photos from when he was in school and try to figure out who the teacher was so we can trace it back. Maybe we can find this video, because it sounded like it was convincing to him, at least. You know, I know he was a little boy, but I don't know. What did you guys think of that? I was kind of like shocked by it, because I was expecting this whole, you know, like a military aspect or something. He basically just said like, hey, I'm part of #UFO Twitter. I'm an experience. I met an experiencer and now I'm here. Like, I don't know. I was like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, he didn't come across as like he was a career suit or anything like that. He did come across like, you know, he was talking about when he and his wife went hiking, and, you know, there was that bear incident that he talked about. But yeah,
the brown bear.
He just seemed very normal. I mean, he was probably sounded like he was suffering from a bit of a cold or flu, or, you know, he said he'd had his jab, so you know, he was clear.
I thought that was a little bit messed up when Joe Rogan was like, "What's that noise? What is that? Is that you breathing?" And I was like, dude, come on, man. You know it's him breathing. Like, you should know it's him breathing.
Yeah.
I was like,
Chris,
that's just
stop breathing,
rude, man. Yeah.
That's like a production thing, I think. Like on all the film sets I worked on, whenever someone was making a noise, you know, you'd get angry at each other, but no one would ever take it personally. So you'd be like, oh God, is that you breathing on the sound? It'd be exactly the same kind of thing, you know?
So, I mean, I got to be honest. The 3 takeaways I got from this was, 1, I can't believe these kinds of conversations are happening on such a grand scale. 2, Chris Mellon is literally one of us in the sense of like his origin story is pretty much, I'm sure lots of people in the live chat right now have had a similar origin story, or have had, you know, they kind of got into this topic because of that. And, yeah, what did you guys think? I mean, that's kind of where I was at. I was just listening to it like, wow, this guy's really into this. And he's he's honestly into it. Like he's got this whole, right, he still has the military kind of background talk and the political kind of talk, but it's kind of genuine. It's like very genuine.
Yeah, I mean, I've just finished reading American Cosmic, and Diana Pasulka talks about the different kinds of encounters that people have that get them into the UFO subject. She talks about like book encounters. Someone will pick up a book, and that will be the genesis point where they go and find out a load more about UAPs. But you get the sighting encounters as well. So you have, Chris Mellon with his experience. It was it kind of almost grounded him as well. It made him more relatable to the rest of us, whereas before he was always seen as kind of this man from the government who was a bit standoffish. No one could really approach him or anything like that. You always felt a sense of trepidation whenever you kind of wanted to speak to him. He was like the headmaster or someone like that you're scared to approach. But now, after listening to both of his interviews, it's kind of like, you wouldn't mind firing off a tweet to him or something like that.
I saw Dan just went dark there. I was like, oh, they closed the curtains.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the downside of like the auto timed lighting. You forget that you have it. It just goes off in the middle of interviews.
Yeah. Every so often, Dan has to clap to turn them back on again.
Well, I can talk, but I didn't want to just in the middle of you talking just be like, "Hey Siri."
Hey Siri, email Chris Mellon.
What do you think, Dan, of Chris? I mean, I feel like we're all on the same page with that.
He's really articulate, really grounded. When it went towards the I'm going to say woo-woo. We need to come up with a better term because, we know this conversation goes to some strange places, so woo-woo doesn't really apply. But when they got there, I thought he handled that pretty well and kind of said, they're crazy stories, but let's come back to this really tangible stuff that we can talk about. Is this Dave's version of turning the lights off? Is he gone?
I think he's gone. I think he fell out, but it's fine. We'll just wait for him to come back. There he is. He came back.
But what really intrigued me was Chris kind of stating of I think it was the Go Fast video. He said that it was a small segment of a longer video, and then said, if that thing was to make a 90-degree turn, then that it's not a balloon, for example. So maybe, we know what these guys are like in interviews. They like to kind of give us these little breadcrumbs to get us drooling over the possibilities.
Yeah. I like how Dan, you always like find those little breadcrumbs too. You always find them. I definitely felt the same, and I felt this way when I hear them say these kinds of things. That's why sometimes for me, hearing the drone discussion and the balloon discussion, I'm like, look, guys, I've been like looking at drones for just as long as almost I've been looking at UFOs. Like I've been looking at different balloons, like different shapes of balloons and different types of like aerial vehicles that might match up, because I believe in UFOs, but not because I'm like a fan of ET Phone Home or the ET film. You know what I mean? I believe in UFOs because it's a real phenomenon. It's not like I'm sitting back like, yeah, UFOs. No, I'm like, this is something real that's happening that really is important to all of us and to the whole world. And we need to pay attention to it because it's going to teach us about ourselves. So I don't know, but I think, what did you guys think about when he brought up the man we shouldn't name, but Mick West?
Oh, that one. I thought you were going to go in the other one.
He tried not to, didn't he? He tried to kind of skirt around it, and then Rogan said, "Oh, you mean Mick West?" And he kind of said, "Yeah, if you say his name too many times, he just appears in interviews."
Exactly.
He's going to show up right now in the on the panel. What did you think, though?
Well, he was saying what we've been saying for months. It's like he hasn't. Mick and the rest of the debunkers, they don't have the full spectrum of information available to make the decision or come to the conclusions that they're coming to. You'd never get that information because most of it's classified anyway. So why is he coming to a conclusion already, without... You don't just... I don't know. I can't get my thoughts together on Mick. He's... yeah.
Well, we got a little more information this week about the Nimitz case. I can't remember the Twitter username now. I'm really, really sorry, but it was an amazing video just talking about the sensors available in the Super Hornet for when they were filming. And this has been alluded to by a few people, just that we don't really understand how these sensors work in tandem with each other and what the pilots were seeing on the screens. And I feel like it's something we'll get more details of going forward. But the point is, Mick works with what he has, which is this short videos. And we all know that there's more. Just what did it for me is when Luis Jimenez asked him, they were talking about the data, and Mick said that he wouldn't be interested in the data if they had it, which I just thought was insane.
Well, no, because then that proves
that's everything. But it's everything, right? It will prove or disprove a narrative, and if it was about the truth, either one of those doesn't matter. It's about finding the truth. Whereas in that moment, I thought, I see he's invested on one of these sides.
He definitely is. I mean, he's got books. He's out there. I mean, and people are gunning for him. Even he came up on Joe Rogan, and they were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, that guy, he doesn't believe shit." And I was like, "Do
you think that Elizondo is going to be a playable character in the Tony Hawk remake?"
That'd be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty cool. Or you should just make a seagull that skateboards, and it'll just be like a seagull or a UAP. Yeah. Or the Tic Tac, and it's just the Tic Tac like skateboarding. But I don't know. When I heard him, no, yeah, that would actually be really cool, right? So if you guys are watching this, people that are making the Tony Hawk games, do that. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, but skate around the Nimitz.
Yeah, skate him on the Nimitz. Yeah. When I heard him say that, I thought he wasn't going to say it. I knew he was referring who he was referring to. And when he asked him, I thought he was going to try and dodge it, but you can tell he has an issue, like a real issue with it, because he was like, yeah, Mick West. And I was like, wow. Cause like, there's a lot of people in the community that are like, it's healthy. It's healthy to be a skeptic. It's healthy. And it's totally healthy to be a skeptic. Right. But I've said this before, a blind skeptic is dangerous and a blind believer is dangerous. You have to be in the middle, because not everything is going to be a UFO or a UAP, but some things are going to be UFOs and UAPs. And if you're so skeptical that you can't even see that, then you're going to be lost. And if you're so blind because you're believing in this so deeply, or you're so vested in believing, you're also going to get, you're going to think that a balloon is a UFO, or, vice versa. But I think he is dangerous in the sense of he's very smart. And if he's the kind of guy that I could give him, I don't know, a picture of a duck, and he would if you gave him enough time, I feel like he'd come back and say no, that's not a duck. And I'd be like, dude, it's a duck. It quacks like a duck. It flies like a duck. It's a duck. Just stop. And I've known people like that. I've known people like that. And I've said this before too. I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, but there's some very intelligent, stupid people out there that are intelligent. They're very intelligent, but they're stupid. I'm not saying Mick West is stupid. That sounds like I'm calling him out, but I'm trying to paint a picture, and I've never been in the honors class, but I've had friends that were brilliant, and then they would do something so stupid that I was like, dude, what? You're brilliant. I don't understand how you could do this, or they'll have a take on society or a take on something that's like, wait a minute, dude, you're a genius. I can't believe you think like this. So just because someone's smart doesn't mean they're right. And just because, and smart people have the tools and the capabilities to convince all the simpletons, as some of them may call us, to follow a certain path. And there's lots of people that do that. But yeah, so.
Thing is as well, you can have a skeptic, but you can have skeptical analysis as well, which is something that Lou Elizondo points out. You know, a skeptic, you're never gonna convince them, but a skeptical analysis will take that information and analyze it and perhaps come up with a different theory until better information comes along.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at the live chat because normally, you know, I talk to the live chat, but now we should all talk to the live chat. So guys in the live chat, if you have any questions for any of us, shoot them in the live chat. And you guys,
oh no, it's that side. Okay.
It's that side.
That way.
Like somebody says, Mick West also lies. He lied about Kevin Day's statements. Mick's trapped because something is finally real and his ego can't accept it.
Can I
And
say
now
something
he's
about
showing
Mick?
his true dishonest colors? Yeah, of course. Definitely.
I don't know how true it is. So take it with a pinch of salt. But I saw it whilst just kind of reading through my Twitter feed today. But someone said that he may be struggling with an experience he had, which would be an interesting twist. But my reaction when I read that was, is he just realizing that the writing's on the wall and needs to shift his audience? Or is this a genuine, you know, I wouldn't want to assume it. If he came out and said he had an experience, I would assume good intent and listen to what he has to say. But in the back of my head, I'm just like, you're pivoting to a different audience. Like I can see.
I mean, there's been people like that before as well.
If he hasn't had an experience, I hope he has one, to be honest. I hope they like suck him up into a ship in the middle of the day and just run every test possible and then bring him back and let's see how he turns that into a...
But with a twist.
With a twist.
They can control our consciousness, right? So, and show us whatever images. So do everything you just said, but instead of grays, I want giant seagulls. Just so when he comes back and in a Travis Walton-esque way of telling the tale with a lie detector test and an eventual Hollywood movie made of it, it would just be a gem with these giant seagulls stealing humans.
Wow. That would be pretty. I just imagined like a flock of giant seagulls. And that's pretty scary, to be honest.
There was one other thing that Chris Mellon did point out when they were watching the videos is that the pilots said, you know, mentioned, oh look, there's a whole fleet of them over there, where you don't get to see that at all. And I think he said there were no pictures taken of this fleet or any video footage of them, but the pilots were there. You know, the pilots could see them, and they mentioned them on the recording. So how can you just think that there's just one object? Base your whole theory on just that one little bit of footage. It's crazy.
It's like Michael Bay, right? You know how when you're watching a Transformers movie, if something's off screen, Michael Bay just forgets that it's in the story completely. I think it's like that.
Like Megan Fox.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I saw a video today about Megan Fox. I don't know where I saw it. I think it might have been like I was scrolling through TikTok, right? Burning my brain cells. And somebody put something up about Megan Fox being psychic. Did you guys know she had like a paranormal show? Like where she was like investigating like paranormal
I
stuff?
seem to remember that. They tapped her up for it, I think.
Yeah.
I watched the Kardashians a few weeks ago. Am I going to have to watch this again as well?
No. You didn't need to watch the Kardashians, to be fair.
I can't get clean.
Hey, so I think they asked us something in the chat. Let's check it out. I think somebody asked us. Then we'll get back into the rest of the because there's so much to talk about. Honestly, we could talk for hours.
Two more things from the Mellon thing. Just while you can have a look at the chat. Feel free.
Yeah.
Was one the I can't remember what prompted it, but Chris shared a story of a video where the pilots had a very emotional reaction. They were his words which gave me goosebumps because it the audio where they're saying, "Look on the ASA, what the hell is that thing?" It really kind of conveys the emotion of the moment. And if a serviceman is having a hugely emotional reaction to this thing that he's seeing, it's obviously not glare in a passenger plane or something like that.
That's going to be a full-letter outburst.
Yeah, right. Then the other thing was when Joe asked, which I thought was a great question, what would you do? What would you do if you were given carte blanche? How would you deal with this? And Chris said that we actually had a name for his proposal, the Office of Strategic Anomaly Resolution, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
If they need a water boy or anything, I'm your guy.
You never know. You never know what could happen. They might start pulling each of us into different kinds of little programs, secret projects in the future. If they need some kind of analysis or some kind of opinions or I don't know. I also am we'll get into this a little later, but I feel like it's almost the discussion is like leaving the normal folk out, leaving the everyday people kind of out of the discussion. It's weird because it's like a thin line that we're on where it's like, it could go that direction and it might not. And we could always still just continue to do this. And who's going to stop us? Right. But yeah. Hey, so let's look at this question just real quick and then we'll jump back in. Sofa says, the Undead Gaucho, what are your guests' opinions on the origins of these visitors? Alien, interdimensional, time travelers, or demons? Ooh, the demon one. The demon ones. I can't wait to talk about that.
Demons just like a label, man.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what everyone's like, demons. They said demons. I'm like, I made a whole video talking about angels and aliens and how an alien is just an angel is just an alien. It's just a way of labeling it. It's just a way of identifying it that they had. So a demon is the same thing. It's just another word for alien. It's an interdimensional being, like it or not. It's an ultra terrestrial.
It's one of those words that have been bandied about for when people have been given reasons for not investigating the UFO subject at a high official level in the Pentagon. There's still the religious stigma where people were saying, we don't want to investigate it because we know what they are. They're demons.
But who's afraid of demons? I'm not afraid
religious
of demons.
Folk, Christian folk.
I mean, but you could always exorcise them. I mean, like, the good guys always win in those stories. I'm not really afraid of demons. Even if I saw somebody crawling up a wall, I'd be like, well, that's pretty wild. Let's figure that out. I wonder how old that demon is. I used to say this about exorcisms. Remember I had this discussion. I think it was with my father. I said, so what if the demon or the entity inside of the person, right, is like a Egyptian king that wasn't Catholic and didn't believe in a Catholic God? How does the powers or how does the priest get that? Or a Japanese jinn, for example, how do they get that out? It's Japanese jinn. The jinn's going to be like, what are you talking about? Keep saying whatever you're saying. I don't even care. Like,
did you ever read I Am Legend?
I did not read I Am Legend. No.
In that, the vampire disease spreads, but the rules for beating the vampires and what they can do depend on what they believe the vampire could do in life. So you'd occasionally see people like climbing lampposts and jumping off and just landing flat faced, and the lead character would comment like, "Oh, that guy clearly thought that vampires could fly in life." Or the crosses would only work on the priests, for example. I thought that was quite a cool idea.
Yeah, like going back to the question, I mean, we spoke about this on Andy's show quite a lot. Whether they are ultra-terrestrials or crypto-terrestrials, whether they are traversing the universe or the galaxy, or they could be invisible to our visual range, our visual spectrum. That you could have a whole crowd of interdimensionals sitting around watching this live stream, and we
There's
wouldn't
one
know
like
it.
right here.
Yeah.
There's one sitting right next to me.
I mean, you joke.
But there might be.
You joke, but you don't know how it would see you, right? I say it. That's probably rude. But given that these things seem to be attracted to nuclear power sources and so on and so forth, it stands to reason they see the world through radiation. Similar to kind of how Monica got her powers in WandaVision. She saw all the radio waves instead of what we would see.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't necessarily maybe be next to you looking over your shoulder watching this conversation. They would just see a bright ball of light, for example, because your body is producing all kinds of different producing and absorbing all kinds of different radiation.
Yeah. Did you ever read or see the movie Val Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets?
No, I didn't.
Cool title, but I didn't know.
Yeah, it was a Luc Besson film based on a graphic novel.
I remember there's like a model that plays in it, right? She's like
Cara Delevingne. Yeah.
Cara Delevingne, yeah.
But they take the two characters into the middle of this, what looks like to be the desert. It could be, anywhere, Alta Plano or Groom Sand, somewhere like that. And they give them these special goggles. And they put them on, and then they can see this other dimension, this other spectrum, and they're in the middle of a marketplace. There's all these different species wandering around. But because they're wearing these goggles and they're not part of that dimension, they have to be really careful not to bump into anything and not to interact with anything. It's really it's well done.
Well, now I'm going to watch it.
That could be something that we possibly experiencing because we just don't know.
I'm siding more with the idea too lately that they're just here. They're here. Yeah. They're here. Like it or not, they're here. I think the space alien concept, there are aliens on other planets that may have traveled here or maybe do travel here. But these beings that we continuously see, there is some link here. There's something here. And the ocean thing, I think, is interesting. I think we have to stop trying to complicate the topic so much. I keep doing this. I mean, I've been saying it all year. Like, my practice is to like dumb it down a second, calm down. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Simple. That's it. It's like we're playing this game of we're like, I don't know. It's like a game of chess, right? But with a million pieces, when really the board is only so big. For example,
however, there is the twist that we've just found out that the chessboard you had all along is actually a quantum chessboard.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. But it's always been that. It's always been a quantum chessboard. It's just like I remember Carl Sagan. Do you guys remember this? It was like there's like a famous clip online where he's talking about different dimensions. And he's got this cube, and he's like, it's an old Carl Sagan. I don't know if it was like a TV show, or I think he had a TV show, right? A long time ago. And he started explaining how it works. So interdimensional or understanding, maybe they understand how to come in and out, so maybe they are actually physical, but they're just like, we come in, we go out. Or that's sort of in order for them to get around, that's kind of how they get around. They go in and out of like wormholes and different things like that because it's just faster. It's just easier for them. But there is a huge tie with large bodies of water. They are seen over large bodies of water a lot. And I just feel like it's really stupid to think like, oh, why wouldn't they just be sitting in the ocean, like hanging out? Like, I think, like, if they're physical, I keep going back to this thing where, like, if they're non-physical, or say they're ultra, they're from another dimension, they must be coming into our dimension or something. I don't understand how to explain it because I don't know physics or astrophysics or anything like that. But if they're finding physical craft, like Lockheed Martin might have some physical pieces of a crashed UFO. then it's physically here. Like there's physically pieces of, it's not like something that just disappears or zooms in and out. It's like they're coming here with a vehicle as well. They're using a vehicle. They're not just like walking. They can walk through walls, it seems like, from some close encounters, right? But they are still using vehicles. So is that vehicle sort of transporting them, not through space and time, but maybe through, or maybe it is space and time, but you know what I mean? Like through dimensions. I don't know. It's a tricky question. And I think Lou Elizondo kind of also blew my mind with the New York Post thing. I was going to say the basement office when he talked to Green Street, because he gets pretty wild. I had no idea how intelligent this man was until I started hearing him talk at the end of that interview.
He's a massive member, right? Like he's a really smart guy, and he studied I don't want to get this wrong.
Biology, I think.
Yeah, viruses. So yeah, an interesting time to have his mind, right?
Yeah, definitely. I like what you're saying about the, you know, are they still coming in on craft? Because in the 40s and 50s and 60s, they were physical objects, you know, 2 soup plates glued together upside down. Some had domes on them, some had landing struts, some were just landed on a pillar. And then at some point it just changed. I think it was in the 70s when you had the abduction phenomena kind of kicking off. It was not so much about the craft anymore. It was more about the experience of being abducted. And then the next kind of thing we find out is, you know, boomerangs or black triangles. And we get to where we are today.
100%. You know, that's also interesting. I brought that up too in the past. Like, is that the upgrade? You know, are they upgrading their technology? There must be limits to this technology for them. You know, like maybe they're actually not that smart in the grand scheme of things. Maybe we're just like, you know, monkeys banging bones around, and they're just like cavemen. And there are some other beings that are just like super civilized, super advanced, super, and it just spawns out throughout the, you know, dimensions or universe or whatever.
But you know, we do focus too much on what we're seeing at the moment. If you go back to the historical cases, the early 20th century, you got the airships, which were said to have been floating around, or scare ships as they were called in Britain. And then you get all the Foo Fighters of the 30s and the 40s, and you know, then it progresses into more physical objects. But don't want to interrupt you, but sorry about that, John.
No, guys, remember, this is like basically we're hanging out at the pub, we're throwing back some beers, and we're talking. So there's no interrupting. There's none of that. Don't worry. I honestly think that we have this idea of the phenomenon and these occupants, and I understand the craft is doing things that we can't, right? That we can't keep up with, whatever. But let's not forget a lot of the close encounters where these occupants just seem, they're telepathic. They are, they can walk through walls and all this kind of stuff, but they seem kind of clumsy. You know, they seem kind of, I was having this thought the other day, like, is it possible that there are aspects of us that are more advanced than them and we're just not realizing? Like physically, it seems like we're more advanced. Like our physical, like, you know, our bodies, like everyone says they're weak, the Greys. And also, I was thinking they have slits for mouths, right? This is something I was just thinking the other day, a thought experiment. I always have these with Dan. We talk all the time and I have these strange thoughts. And I was like, what if their vocal cords like aren't, you know, evolved at all? What if they just are like slits, or like, you know, like everything seems so basic? What if that's why they don't have sex organs, or they don't seem to have any sort of distinctive, powerful quality other than their brains? right? Their large heads and their large eyes.
Yeah. It might
And
be
what if they can't speak and they're telepathic?
Technological thing, yeah, because they're often seen with longer fingers than we have.
That's true.
So maybe as we become more reliant on technology, we're texting and using our phones all the time, so we're going to get possibly long thumbs in the future. Because you're texting everybody and you're on WhatsApp and you're on Twitter and you're on Signal or Facebook or however you want to communicate with people, you don't speak as much. You're not talking to people as much. So that kind of over generations, perhaps, like you said, the vocal cords atrophied. They've just shrunk back to where they're no longer needed. But it might be at the same time where, our intuition kicks in, and we do find that we do have some sort of telepathic abilities, which has always been spoken about that we had in the past, but it was kind of bred out of us. So maybe, with, this grand awakening that everybody's been banging on about for decades, perhaps it is around the corner. And knowing, like the previous comment you had on there, if we have neighbors that are next to us that we don't know about yet, perhaps they're here to actually teach us how to initiate, telepathic contact or skills that we once had.
Yeah, totally. I don't know, guys. Like I have a back and forth relationship with the phenomenon. I'll be like, oh, it seems like it's good, right? Seems like it's here to help us. And then I'll sit back and I'll go, it's not really helping us at this point in time. It's not really doing much. It's helping a few people, supposedly, right? It may help us. It may help us grow our understanding, but I still think we need to be a little bit like cautious and just be like, where were you? I think that's why they don't abduct me, because the first thing I'd say is, I'd be like, first of all, what are you doing? I mean, why are you like not letting me? You could have just asked me and I would have got on the ship if you just came down and acted cool, but instead you froze me and you hovered me into this craft or whatever, I don't think I trust them either. I don't know. I don't think I trust them. I think if they were like, you have to protect the planet, I'd be like, why don't you protect the planet? Why don't you help us protect the planet? If you want,
can I have one of these vehicles that you guys just seem to have kicking around? Like, I feel like I can make use of it, even if it's just going from, I don't know, the prime ministers to the American embassy super fast to sort stuff out. It would be helpful.
Definitely be helpful. And I've had that frustration before. And then I say like, well, maybe the argument always is, well, we don't matter to them because we're like ants or we're just insignificant on there. And I'm like, no, we're not, because they're like literally supposedly interbreeding and plucking us out of our houses and doing all this stuff. So there's some importance there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, I swear, I feel like that would be the first thing I'd say to an extraterrestrial. I'd be like, help us. If they were like, you have to protect the planet, I'd be like, okay, can't you just help us protect the planet?
Yeah. I mean, it was your experiment. Yeah.
I'd make a little list of like, this is why we can't do it. And in self-help programs, rule number one is if you've screwed up, then you're going to need help, because you can't unscrew yourself. You need someone else to kind of help you do that. So yeah, just you guys do it pretty much. That's my request to them.
But then they could turn around and say, well, you broke it, you fix it.
That's true. But I also feel like it's the easiest way. I also feel like it's the easiest way. Like, look, if I was an alien and I had to interact, or an ultra terrestrial or whatever, and I had to interact with a human, I would just make them feel like, first of all, everything's okay. And like, hey, everything's cool. And then I'd literally, maybe they have a speech written out that they're like, anytime you come into contact with them, use this speech and then leave them back where they are and they're going to be fine. Because
it's funny you say that, though, that you would make them feel like everything's okay, because in a lot of these cases you do get this feeling of euphoria, and all the Tom DeLonge fans in the chat are going to be screaming at me right now to say it, because their next single out next week is Euphoria, and I thought it was an interesting connection that his first thing when he's away from Chris and Lou is to focus in on this feeling, and his approach is all about kind of people coming together as a group and kind of resonating together. So I think that's really interesting that you mentioned that feeling of inducing euphoria in people. We hear Chris Bledsoe say it. I felt that they were outside. And in a lot of cases, that feeling is described as euphoria, and often spelled UFO ORIA.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it depends again. There's been reports of so many different kinds of species out there, and people have claimed to have encountered. It kind of depends on what you may hypothetically come across or experience. I mean, if you're stood in front of an 8-foot praying mantis, what are you going to do? You're not going to start playing nice, are you? You're going to be hightailing it, hiding under the bed. Or
I've seen the video of the mantis.
Hey, bud. No, I mean, yeah, that'd be kind of scary. Scary, but it's a big giant praying mantis. Just remember, it's a big bug. It's just, I'm more like, I don't know, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've been trying to figure out, first of all, what is it that makes an experiencer worthy to have contact? Is it just off? I know there's supposedly like bloodlines, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of like, sooner or later, if it's possible, I need to make contact. I'm just thinking sooner or later, if there's a way to do it, if I need to like, attract the bull with the red flag, sooner or later, I'm going to have to do that, because I can't just keep, even when the UFO discussion continues on a larger scale, right? Here's what's going to happen. UFOs are a reality. Literally, that is literally where we are at right now. But the general public is still like, wait, what? Huh? Really? No, come on. And it's literally, it is a reality. I'm sorry. Nobody can contest to that. There is a UAP task force. There is, just look at the news. Like, this is a reality. This is really happening now.
And in case they didn't believe there was a task force, there's now an investigation of the task force.
Definitely. So I'm worried that the discussion can only go so far, because even right now, as soon as like they bring up abductees or experiencers, there's always a chuckle now and a laugh.
Yeah.
A lot of the times. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, if there was no, Betty and Barney Hill, you would have lost so much important information. You wouldn't understand, if it wasn't for experiencers and abductees, the topic really wouldn't have any of the heart and soul that it has. It would just be this shell of a thing that we'd be looking at like an empty craft. But there is so much more to this than that. So I don't know what's wrong with that.
People forget that people who do have abduction experiences, those experiences are true to them. They believe them vehemently. That this is something that happened to them. It's affected them throughout their daily lives, and they're scared to talk about it because they don't want to have people laughing at them, or they don't want a stigma attached to themselves. But those events are still real to them. However much we might, everyone makes light of the subject now and again, but deep down we all appreciate that these experiences and abductees do have something to say, which is relevant, and we shouldn't ignore them. And I don't think there will be a time where we can talk about it, or the press will talk about it in a serious manner, because they've taken, they've spent the last 30, 40, 50 years laughing at flying saucers or UFOs, objects that are supposed to be physical. So how are they going to cope with things like consciousness, CE5, and the abduction scenarios? It's not going to be an easy conversation for the public to get their heads around.
Can I tell you guys a theory I have?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the video of Kurt Russell talking about seeing the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah.
It's a really cool video. But the most striking thing in there is the fact that he says that it happened. They moved on with their lives, and then all these years later, his wife was watching a UFO show and he saw it come up, and they said on the news that there were a bunch of civilian reporters and there was one aviation guy, and he was like, "Hey, that was me," and he said he literally just didn't think about it at all from when it happened to when he randomly saw it. And I've got a feeling that there are a lot of people out there that have had weird experiences that just do not want to talk about them because they can't. They just don't know how to broach the subject. And two, that just like Kurt Russell, I think there are going to be a lot of people out there who have had experiences and just cannot remember for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And then I would probably lean into phenomena induced, but as John Mack found out, there seems to be a PTSD remnant when it comes to these experiences.
I think when they do start coming out, if they do start coming out, then you're going to get the third group of people who are going to start making things up just for the attention. They're going to say that they spent 20-year tours of duty on Mars, were age regressed when they came back. Or that, I don't know, they were biological super soldiers fighting giant bugs, and then they can't get their military pension when they come back on Earth for those, for the duty that they pulled up wherever they were, saving the galaxy. I mean, Captain Mark Richards is a classic example because he was involved with the murder of one of his work mates, if I remember the story correct. But his defense in the trial was, it couldn't have been me because I was on the other side of the galaxy, saving the Earth.
And he's not in jail?
Yeah, he's in jail. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And all he did was to pretend to put a glove on. I mean, that's a big story.
But he spent so long, repeating that story and making it up, adding and embellishing it. And some UFO researchers actually took his story as gospel and, were petitioning to get him released because he was doing his civic duty as, a soldier, a veteran of this space battle, so he couldn't have been murdering this kid when he was.
Look, that's always going to come into play. That's always going to be a thing. I just feel like it's really unfortunate that UFOs are a reality and we still just can't talk about people that have had close encounters and had come into contact with them. The first thing I thought when the wave kind of changed, when the tide turned, I was like, perfect. So now there must be a bunch of people out there smiling, feeling normal again, because they had a strange experience, or maybe they feel like, oh, wow, yeah, that really did happen to me. And now I feel okay. I'm not like confused or whatever. And also what you said, Dan, I made a whole video talking about that there are probably way more experiencers and abductees out there than we know because of that aspect of abduction. It comes up often where they don't remember or they forget about it. And even friends that are like having a close encounter together and then they like spread apart and they never talk again. They never bring it up. So there does seem to be something, maybe it's phenomenon induced, like you said, but it does seem to be something definitely at play there. But I just worry, man. I worry about the people. I really do. I worry about the people because I know there's good people out there, and there might be somebody having like literally like a close encounter every day, like the Bledsoes, or something like that, where we're just ignoring them and we're just laughing at them when they try to tell us, or they don't want to say anything because maybe they have a great career and a wife and children, and they don't want to lose all that, they don't want to get their kids taken away or different things like that. I mean, those people need representation, because soon, I mean, if UFOs are real, guys, let's stop, beating around the bush. Let's get to the core of the situation. There's occupants inside of these craft. There's a reason they're here. They're not just like zipping around having fun. There's a whole purpose behind it, and that's more important to me than any other aspect of the conversation. Is like, I don't know. So, because I've been hearing this stuff come up often, because I understand we're trying to prove a point. We're trying to take this topic to a more credible point or level than it's ever been. And you hear it come out from some of our heroes where they're like, I don't care about your experience. Doesn't matter to me, because that's not going to help us. That only helps you. And it doesn't really help them to have an experience. And it helps me because maybe I'll learn something from their experience. Imagine if John Mack didn't do what John Mack did. Imagine if Bud Hopkins and these people didn't. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm a little like, I'm worried that we're going to keep facing, it's going to happen. Ufology. We shouldn't even call it ufology anymore. But this topic has been barraged with barriers and boundaries. And we're getting over the most simple one. We're getting over the one that should have been the easiest to get over years ago. And yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys feel? I mean, what do you guys think of the crash craft situation? First thing that came to my head is, if there's crash craft, then they definitely retrieve bodies. Sorry. There must be some bodies out there, or some actual beings out there, because it just makes perfect sense to me. Where's the pilot? Where are the pilots?
Well, what did you guys think of on the same question, in Stephen Greenstreet's interview with Luis Elizondo? Luis went into an analogy about a car crash, how you would, at the scene of a car crash, you'd go in and you'd look at all the angles and the cameras and the vehicles and so on and so forth. And Stephen was like, hold on, wait a second. You said look at the vehicles. Is that something you've got to do? What did you guys think of Lou's reaction there?
I think it was I think Lou Elizondo knows a lot more than he's putting. I think he had it. Didn't he like kind of hint that he had a close encounter, and that he's like not sharing it because he wants to keep his credibility, right? That's something
Andy and I asked him on the podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like, that's my experience. It's not something that can really help move the needle. So that's for me, kind of thing. Also, it was asked at the end of Unidentified season 2.
Yeah.
So you can see him react on camera.
Was that when he said about mankind and mankinds?
He says it, I think,
Unidentified.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave?
Crashcraft, obviously, there's been quite a lot of reports, from all corners of the world. It's not just an American thing. You have instances in France, in Italy, the UK, Wales especially. And I don't think that that's going to get admitted to because, of the kind of stigma around Roswell.
Yeah.
To be fair, and the 70-year cover-up, and the RAF saying, "Oh, we got a flying saucer." No, we haven't. Yes, we have. No, we haven't. No, there was no flying saucer. It was a weather balloon and all that. But there were other incidents, and there was rumours of a craft being shot down at the Battle of LA in '42, with Jacques Vallée and Paola Harris's book coming out. The best kept secret, that's relating to a crash in New Mexico in '45. There's the Aztec crash as well. There's the one I think it was in Chihuahua in Mexico, where the Mexican soldiers were supposedly transporting a crashed vehicle, and they either all died from something to do with the craft, or another government agency from somewhere else kind of approached them, assassinated them, and then took the crash off somewhere else. Which, if that happened, then that's pretty sketchy. But I think if we have materials, we're not going to get, the layperson isn't going to understand the composition of those materials. So we need, like a layman's crash test guide to metamaterials.
Dan, you've been watching what is it? Debris? What was
Debris?
the show?
I was literally just, I think we're on the same wavelength here, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think that let's be realistic. I mean, the other day, I forgot where I heard it. Was it Chris Mellon? It might have been Chris Mellon, where they talked about metamaterial, and they were talking about Jack Valet had some, and some of the other people had some. And I think he used the word, like, there's some on the market out there, and TTSA was trying to get their hands on it. He said the market, but they're like pricey. I don't know if it was the Joe Rogan interview. Do you guys remember that? It might have not been. I think it
was the Joe Rogan one. I know vaguely what you're on about. It's one of the two interviews. But I think it was Rogan. Yeah. And you're right. He did. He kind of alluded to it being out there, but we just don't know which of the genuine pieces, right? And what Dave said is interesting about the crash being taken from one government to another. Is that you'd think it was the biggest government taking it, which we know kind of shuffled everything away into private industry. So if there's like this whole secret history of private industry goons stealing and murdering in different countries, that's a whole other, like, they can't just talk about things like that, right? So
no, they can't.
No, it's like Russia's had a load of crashes as well. The Technicol's incident in '86, where something exploded on a hillside.
That's true.
But that Mexican crash, I know I've heard about it. I can't remember where I heard about it. But it was definitely one that stuck in my mind because of, these Mexican soldiers were found with an empty flatbed. Or they were just found in the desert where a flatbed would have been and it was on the route that they were taking to take this crashed vehicle away.
Look, man, let's be realistic. If I was a multi-millionaire or a billionaire, let's say I was the creator of Ethereum, I would be hunting these things down. I'd be hunting them down. I would have a whole team of you guys, and we would just be hunting down metamaterials, because if we could get our hands on a craft and use it for good before it gets turned into some kind of psycho, crazy, super fast, interdimensional war machine, then I would hunt it down. I mean, so thinking of people like Robert Bigelow and just big industry people, also think about all the money they can make off of it on a side. You know what I mean?
I wonder if Brandon's ever tried to reach out and buy any.
When I would.
Maybe Skinwalker was the end of that journey. Maybe he was like, oh, it would be cool to own a piece of UFO, and then thought, oh, I can own a place where it's said to have weird stuff happening UFOs there regularly. That seems like a pretty good way to get a piece of UFO.
A UFO factory, basically. It's just
I mean, definitely a weirdness factory, isn't it?
We got to be that's also the importance of this topic being real, is like thinking of craft and thinking of how many craft could there actually be out there, in possession of some, I don't know, like some government, or maybe it's just like a really rich guy has a craft sitting in the basement of his father's, palace in Abu Dhabi or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like a jetpack guy who was flying over
the jetpack guy in LA. Yeah. Nobody ever said anything else about it.
No, he appeared twice and then disappeared, but no one knows. Perhaps he was an early Iron Man prototype. You don't know.
I don't know. This topic could get so, it's just a can of worms. It is definitely a can of worms. And we're only talking about like the outside of it. We're not even thinking about the inside, you know? And the conversation is kind of going like, wait a minute, don't get too deep. Be careful. Don't say this, don't say that. You know, follow this path, which is fine. I understand. But it's the real issue is that the people in our species has been ignoring this topic and has been sort of, you know, it's been covered up. It's been.
Would you be relieved, or yeah? Would you? So say it all comes out.
Yeah.
And you've got two scenarios. Which would you prefer? Scenario one is that they don't know anything. We just know they're real. Or scenario two is they know everything. There's been a cover up, but the information they have is going to save us.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, where it would just get us ready. We'd 110% know exactly what we're dealing with. Which would you prefer?
So we wouldn't know what we're dealing with, but we know someone knows, and they can save us. Was that the second choice?
No. First choice is it's just real, and we don't know anything about, origins and things like that. Second choice is the cover-up is real, but they have all the information and can be the saviors on this topic.
I think I'd prefer the first one because that allows more of a research and a more of a, kind of like an inquisitive approach to the subject. Whereas the second one is, it's almost given to you on a plate, and the government has lied about that. So why else have they lied about? And that's where you kind of get into trouble.
Well, there you go. That's probably one of those two scenarios is playing out at this very moment, and we are part of that scenario. We are watching it play out. And I know people don't like Jimmy Church. You know, when Jimmy Church came on the Big Phone Home, and he was saying like, I'm not just going to trust the government. They have to like earn my trust. Like Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon, and that duo there, they totally earn my trust. And a lot of, when I say government, I'm not talking about soldiers or anything like that. I'm talking about government. So, they've definitely, at least to me, have proven to be that powerhouse and just pushing this topic out and forward. But it's like the cover up is like, now it's almost like people are starting to say the government didn't know anything. They had no idea about anything. They were like, they know just as much as we do, I think. And I'm kind of like, wait a minute. I think the government knows kind of what's going on. I think they're just trying to figure out if they can tell it to us, how they're going to tell it to us. Because there's got to be a group of old guys right now just sitting somewhere going like, what do? I don't know. We're going to have to tell them sooner or later. Maybe they're just killing each other off. Maybe they're just...
Who was it who said? Can't remember. He was on one of the Chris Mellon or the Lou interviews, and they referenced a quote from somebody famous that said, "Science only progresses one funeral at a time." So you have to wait for everyone to die before you can actually start knowing the truth. Which I think this is why we've been having, this drip feed of information come out recently, because the old guard are kind of dying off, and you've got these new people coming in who want to make an impression. They want to put their own stamp on things. So they've been seeing cover-ups, and people saying, "Oh, there's there's stuff definitely out there. Why have we never seen anything?" So these younger people have come in and said, "Well, actually, the information's there. Why don't we just release it?"
Yeah, but we know.
It seems obvious when you put it like that.
It does.
Like if it was being such a big issue for like 70, 80 years, why don't you just like let it out?
It's there. You got that post-it stuck on your monitor for 40 years. What are you doing with it?
You think
say
there was
500 billion a year on security then?
Yeah.
You think there was
Exactly.
like
You could use that for other things like schools and
some teenager telling his grandpa, like, Grandpa, look, why not? Just let it out. Tell everybody. It's fine.
cute.
No.
I never thought about it like that, Billy.
Yeah, thank you. Look, people. Oh man, like I don't go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole very often because I try to steer away from it. People may not believe this, but I'm trying to watch where I step too. Even when I say the experiencers and the abductees, I'm just doing that because I'm like, look, I got nothing to lose. I'm not going to lose any. I'm not a physicist. I'm not. I have no label. Like I can say kind of whatever I want at this point. But conspiracies are very real. You know, when you look into the UFO topic, you go down a lot of rabbit holes, and I don't spend too much time dwelling over conspiracy theories because I did it when I was 12 and 13, so I don't need to do it anymore because I'm just like, yeah, that's probably really happening. Yeah, totally. That's probably really happening. It might not be, but it's most likely happening. And there's so many people that are like, no, how could the government lie? The government doesn't work for you. The government doesn't work for anybody. That's a lie. That's a total lie. Look, I've lived in 2 countries, and I will tell you the same thing. They're doing the same thing all over the world. They're doing the same thing. And it's just, it's like we pay for a lot of stuff, you know, but at the end of the day, if they roll up with a tank at my front door right now, they're going to take me off my property. They could say like, it's no longer your property. Sorry. They could just blow it up if they wanted. They could just blow me away if they wanted right now. And there would be no fuss about it. Yeah. All of a sudden, there would be no fuss about it. You know what I mean? There would be no fuss about it. That's just how it is. And that's how it's been. They'll write a book about it. You know, they'll talk about it like a history class, and they'll be like, yeah, that happened. I remember being in world history and we were learning about Hiroshima, and I was just disgusted. I was like, man, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know, all these powerful, rich people just blowing away people that have nothing to do with whatever they're talking about. Whatever the issue is they have, there's so many innocent people out there. That's why this idea of the good guys and the bad guys when it comes to the world, I think it has to do with what side of the barrel you're standing on. You know, so I always try to figure out like where people are coming from, you know, because the bad guy in their country might not be the bad guy. There's this, I was, you know, I don't see the bad guy and good guy when it comes to these kinds of situations, you know, wars and this kind of stuff. I see people fighting for things they believe in, which I think is noble. And I think, you know, it's honorable. But I also see very rich people making people fight for things that, you know, it's a game of battleship. And there's innocent people that lose their lives. So the UFO topic is something it's something that definitely there are a lot of players and people looking into this topic, you know, and this is not something that from 2017 to now is like, oh yeah, cool aliens. Oh, I didn't know they're real. Really? No. People have known, like there has to be governments around the world that know really what's going on. They're just trying to think of the best way to tell us, because the issue always was we're going to crash the economy if they find out. Maybe that won't happen these days, right? But I think we should always kind of don't trust the phenomenon and don't trust anybody. You know, trust yourself.
Trust no one. Yeah.
Trust your gut. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like someone said in the chat earlier. It's, you know, people have no problem believing in Hollywood aliens.
Oh yeah,
because that's a form of escapism, but they don't want to acknowledge the fact that it might be real. You know, as long as you see it in a movie and you can tell that it's a CGI or it's a costume, you know, that's okay. But once that shift in your consciousness that says, actually these things are real, then that's going to change your whole outlook on things.
Yeah, I think maybe I just corrupted my mind when I was a kid with all these conspiracy theories I was looking into. So now I'm just like, I don't really buy everything. I trust certain people, and I think there's good people out there trying to make a difference. But I think that there are players out there. It's like, I used to say, JFK was a good example. JFK got his head blown off. Like, JFK got his head blown off. I'm sorry. That's what happened. And my I think it was my mom. She was like, "You should be a politician," because she's like, when I was younger. And I said, "No, Mom. I don't think I could do that because it's like, I mean, I could, but you can't be such a good guy. If you're gonna hang out with wolves, you got to be a wolf. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to bite somebody. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to do something. It's like hanging out with the mafia. Yeah, you could be a good guy that got pulled into the mafia because your family was part of the mafia because of this and that, and now you're in the mafia. Yeah. You might still want to be a good guy, but sooner or later, you're gonna have to throw somebody in a trunk. So either, and that's just how it is. That's just the way things work, and that's the way politics works. If there's crooked people in there, then there's crooked people. You're going to have to do some crooked things sometimes, or else the crooked guys are going to get the lead up on you, So I don't know. That's just, for me, that's just like how life is. Sometimes you're not always going to be the hero. Sometimes the hero is the bad guy in the story because you had to do what you had to do, to take care of the situation. But I don't know.
I want to go back to JFK a minute now. Do you think that?
Wait, was it you?
Yeah, I've been de-aged.
Yeah.
I had age regression therapy when they dropped me back off. But no, do you think the event in Dallas happened because he wanted to collaborate more with the Russians on the space program? Or was it because he was going to tell what he knew about the UFO topic? Or was it because he wanted something else which was a kind of around those subjects? He was going to out somebody, or, he was going to, I can't remember. I did have a theory while you were talking, but then you went too deep and I was tearing up.
I was going to say,
man,
the mafia
we're going to have some wild, Neuralink conversations in a few years. Or we can just transmit emotions and you just instantly grok the thought. Where, an hour in, we'll be in really weird places.
Yeah. I'm not signing up for that.
The mafia was totally involved in that. I mean, that's another situation where it's pretty, things are so fucking obvious. It's just people have this, I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know if I'm just simple. So I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fucking obvious. Yeah, I think he might have, but I think the mafia is actually involved in a lot deeper. So the mafia could even be involved in the UFO topic. If you're telling a mafia guy, hey, I need you to move this metamaterial from here to there, and I need nobody to know about it. The mafia guy's got connections. He can move the metamaterial. And when they catch a mafia guy, they're not going to think he's moving metamaterial. They're not going to think, you're going to think he's got a truckload of cocaine. They're not going to think inside of that cocaine there's actually a UFO sitting there. But I'm just saying, they're all little things that people use. I mean, people in power use that kind of stuff all the time. If you get a hitman, if you're a rich guy that needs a hitman, you go to the mafia. That's simple as that. And then you have ties with the mafia. And when you hang out at the country club all day, the only way to get a hitman is to go to the mafia. And I don't know, Lee Harvey Oswald, right, was the name of the supposed shooter. What was the book, The Catcher in the Rye, right, that they found next to the gun?
I don't know, because it was in a book depository, wasn't it? So there was a lot of books lying around.
but I think they found a book on him, and it was The Catcher in the Rye, if I'm not mistaken. But
I can't remember that one.
I don't know. I think that MK Ultra and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty obvious nowadays that you can definitely brainwash people. If you turn on the news for 10 minutes and you saw what happened when people stormed the Capitol, it's pretty obvious you can brainwash people pretty easily. And not to get political in any sense, but I'm saying it's not as crazy as people think. People have this issue where it's like, oh my God, could they really brainwash us? I'm sure maybe the three of us are brainwashed in a way and we don't even know, you know? But yeah, look, I think if UFOs are real, which seems to be the case, there's gonna be a lot of sticky fingers, and private industry, obviously, you know, the mafia might even be, who knows? You know, there could be crazy stuff like that going on in the background. Definitely.
If there's money in it, right? I mean,
that's what I was gonna say. Like, if there's
I wonder
money
if
in
there
it,
are any like stories involving. I've never Googled mafia UFO cases. I know what I'm doing tomorrow now.
Yeah. That was a good one. I've never thought of that either. That was a great one.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Yeah,
we can
bring that up. Think with all the climate change, you know, crisis going on, if, you know, people are saying, oh, the oil companies and the gas companies, you know, they're all scared of free technology. You know, if we had an ARV, or, you know, we developed UFO technology or UAP technology, we found, you know, a sustainable source of energy, that all these big oil companies would panic and suddenly stocks would crash, the world would go to shit, and cats and dogs would start living together, seas would boil, you know. But if you were one of those big oil companies and you knew that technology existed, wouldn't you want to get that technology so you could come out and say, we've solved climate change?
Well, you see it now, don't you? Like a lot of the companies, you know, renewables were coming on really, really well, but they didn't kind of hit this massive explosion that they have until the current massive companies started investing in them. So you're totally right. Like, you know, the oil companies aren't going to go anywhere. They're just going to become different companies. In 100 years, there'll be asteroid mining companies. They won't be oil companies anymore.
You'd be like Alternative 3 on the moon, getting the helium-3.
Totally. Hey, Dan, what was that interview you sent me today of Lou Elizondo? And it was deep. It was a deep dive interview.
Oh, was that
what was the name of the channel?
Is that Byron Delia?
Yeah, Byron Delia.
Yes, it was.
Delia.
Yeah. Did you watch that, Dave?
That massive book, didn't he?
Yeah, I did watch that. Yeah, it was Eric Davis had authored a book with someone else, hadn't he? On
M.G. Mills or Millis. It was a propulsion paper.
Yeah,
I can't remember the title. Progress.
That wasn't a paper.
Propulsion.
That was a. You could use that as a foundation stone in a museum.
I just remember.
I think it's like a collection of papers. Right. I've got the Millis one. I found that one, but I couldn't find any of the other ones. But yeah, it's a pretty cool paper. Progress in Propulsion Physics, that's what it's called. But there was a little passage at the end that I thought was rather neat.
I was gonna say the first thing I thought when I saw that book was, damn, that's a big ass book. I was like, Jesus. But then I'm also like, this Lou Elizondo is a brilliant man. He probably just read that book in a weekend or something. But
probably.
Yeah.
The passage at the end said, and I think you guys will kind of see what I'm getting at. It says, progress is not made by conceding defeat. With a combination of risk-taking vision and impartial rigor, useful, reliable results will accumulate. Ad astra incrementus. And then there are brackets, which means it means to the stars in steps. Oh. Which I thought was pretty cool, because that is cool. The TCSA game plan in a nutshell, right?
Hang on, the band Steps did a song called "Reach to the Stars."
Look,
hang on.
maybe
There's a whole pop music conspiracy going on now.
It is. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's something else you can look at tomorrow, Dan.
It's that's my day.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what'd you think about Lou saying that he wanted to obliterate ufology?
Well,
That's what he said, right?
He wants to destroy ufology as we know it,
Yeah.
because it goes down preconceived narratives,
Hmm.
and therefore people just dismiss new information. Opinions morph into, preconceived facts, and you just get this whole area of cult and personality, which we saw, pretty much from 2013 to 2018. There was those 5 dark years where everything was just about absolute horseshit.
Are you? What channels are you talking about exactly? No, I'm kidding.
It was mentioned not too long ago, but yeah, I bit my tongue.
It's fine. You should bite it though, because I agree with you, and I was
Yeah,
around for that time.
Yeah,
I was there.
and it was just, every other week it was just terrible.
It's a fake video, fake video, fake video, fake video, fake video, fake video. Nonsense. It was just years and years of that. That in between there, if you did your own looking, your own digging, you'd find some good stuff,
Because and that's why I went back to the old stuff.
Yeah, definitely. That's literally why when this whole thing happened, I said, guys, let's pay attention to the old stuff. Because now that means that some of that old stuff might have actually been legitimate. Some of that stuff that I was balling up and throwing in the trash can, I had to go find that trash can and bring it back out. But
do you guys think anyone will ever sit down and kind of, I almost want the head of the UAPTF to just sit with me and go through YouTube and just go, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's a real one. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You
never know.
Yeah,
it could happen.
20 million videos on Secure Team 10.
Yeah, we'll do them in a day. We'll watch them at 2 speed. It'll be
that could happen. Definitely.
It could. I think, especially when the whole community, whole fringe bullshit snake oil community was involved or was put on pedestals. It wasn't until something very bad happened to a couple of people who were speaking out against them that then the tone shifted back to TCSA and what they were doing, what Chris was doing, what Lou was doing, and since then it's got a lot more serious. And I think it was as soon as Unidentified came out really on History Channel, where you had the testimonies from people like Sean Cahill, Gary Voorhees, David Fravor, and the rest of the pilots, the witnesses from Nimitz and Princeton, that suddenly the conversation took on a more serious tone and we found ourselves where we are today. Otherwise, we'd be talking about, not just blue chickens, but purple unicorns shitting, sprinkle covered donuts.
I totally get, I get where he's coming from. I get it. Also, for somebody as serious as Lou Elizondo or Chris Mellon, I see like they probably can't even stand the bullshit. Like I can barely stand it. I've tried. It's very difficult to create content on YouTube. I'm always walking these thin lines, but I'm saying you walk a very thin line trying to not be super cheesy or super lame or put out something fake. I remember at one time I did this video about a photo from the moon, and it was like the way the crater was, like the shadow on the crater made it look like a saucer sort of sitting above the moon, right? And I stayed up all night researching it, and all the research I used was just garbage. And I made the video while I was like, I got to get a video out. It's been a long time because I enjoy creating content too. It's like, I need to do it. Like I need to do it to feel good. I need to do it to any kind of content, even if I'm drawing something in my house or writing something. So this night I was like, I got to do this. Oh, cool. Look at this. Wow. Love. Boom, boom, boom. Put out the video. Next day I wake up. Video has already been up for like 2 hours. I turn on the video. I watch it again with a clear mind. My hair's all standing up. I'm watching the video and I'm like, oh my God, that is not a UFO. It's like it's like the shadow. Like my eye saw it after editing for like 6 hours after writing it all up. I was like, oh no. And I just left it, you know.
Yeah.
I just left it forever, like a scar, like a wound. But that's gonna happen all the time.
Yeah.
As long as
you go on.
No, go.
I was going to say there was a couple of photos that came out, you know, from Antarctica taken on Google Earth. One was supposed to be a UFO that was stuck in a glacier. And someone said where the actual place on Antarctica,
like
the actual location
you could find it. Yeah.
Yeah, you found it. And then you realized that someone just rotated like a natural ice formed arch that was showing some of the scree underneath it, and they just rotated it so it looked like a UFO. But when you actually turned it the right orientation, it was just an overhang. And you got like 30 million views in 48 hours or whatever. Made that YouTube channel, a big ton of cash just for putting up a picture of a glacier.
Yeah,
I mean, it goes to show though how much interest there actually is in this subject. And Tom DeLonge had a point when he stood in that room and said to everyone, all the generals he was making his presentations to, when he said, you guys have a problem because there are people out there talking bullshit about all this stuff, and there's all this genuine stuff going on, so let's start talking about this stuff. And then people will start talking about the real stuff instead, and we can finally tackle this subject. Because you're right, as long as people are just rotating things in Antarctica. There was another one, the alien face was similar in Antarctica as well, right? Where
that was just
people were like, oh yeah, it's an alien face on a pyramid, and it's like, no, it's just you can't even be bothered to finish telling people why it's not that.
It's like the door on Mount Adams from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That a certain radio host made a big thing about. He said, I just saw a door open on Mount Adams and he filmed it. And, the program Expedition X went up in helicopters and went right by Mount Adams. And they said, well, yeah, from a certain point of view, it does look like a door, but that is just an overhang. And you caught it at the wrong time of day where the sun was setting, and it just created a shadow that looked like a door. But
he needs to fly into it. We've seen Harry Potter. If he doesn't go for it, he can't go through. Believe.
There were so many people wishing he did as well.
We joke, but I'm telling you, there's probably some person out there that is like walking through walls with holding the hand of an EBE. Like they're just like they're watching this, having a sandwich, and they're like, you see, maybe we can talk to them about it. Like
when Andy had his baby boy this week. Congratulations to him and his wife.
When did Andy's wife?
Definitely.
It's definitely teamwork. Probably more Andy's wife than him, to be honest. She built it.
Well, he was around for a couple of seconds when he went.
But I said to him, this, given the week that we've had and the year we're currently having, Harry, which is the baby's name, is going to grow up with just other life forms being a standard fact to him. Like the people that are going to crack this subject and be like Amy Adams in Arrival, learning to communicate with these things, are probably 1 to 2 years old right now. We're going to be the grumpy people in a studio on YouTube with a wall of guitars. I've got my one. I need some more. We'll be that by the time they come along.
I am that.
No, you're not, man. No, like both of you guys are amazing. Like, I enjoy talking to you guys so much because it's just like I can relax, and like I already forgot the camera was even on. There were certain points where I was just like, yeah, like And I think it's important. I don't want to have these kinds of high level, super intense conversations that for me are just going to, like, Congress will get the picture. We got a whole group of people that are trying to do that. Congress is going to get the picture because right now you got to be kind of slow not to realize what's going on. Like it's like everyone's hitting me up. Everyone, my family, you know, people are sending me the articles. They're like, look at this, look at that. Whoa, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I told you.
I had a friend today message me. I haven't spoken to them for like 6 years. They moved out to live in South Korea to teach English, and they're moving back to Wales. Or her and her husband are moving back to Wales. And I got a text from them today basically just saying, hey, you're into this UFO thing. We're really intrigued, but we really don't have the time to keep up with it. Coffee? I was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, because I think people, that's like the hardest thing for people is like breaking away from normal everyday life. Because like sometimes I'll find myself like, you know, I'm not acting normal. I'm like looking into UFOs for 48 hours. And then I go outside and I'm like, I went to a baptism the other day. And when I walked in the church, there was a stained glass window in the back end of the church. And guess what there was in the stained glass window?
Great.
No.
Stephen Greer.
Stephen Greer flexing without a shirt on. No, it was a pyramid. It was the eye, you know, the eye of
yeah.
This is the
all-seeing eye.
The all-seeing eye. But the clouds, the formation of clouds, and the way that the pyramid was sitting, it just reminded me like, this is a Corbell video right there. I'm like, somebody just saw the Corbell video and put that up. Now look, this is their representation of it.
No, it was
this
bokeh.
is what they're seeing. It was bokeh, yeah. It was just it was out of focus, the lens. But and then I'm sitting there, right? I'm watching the ceremony take place. Awesome, right? Cool. My friends were taking, you know, I'm not religious, but they invited us and I was there. It's probably like the only time I've gone out in like months. I can count all the times I've gone out in my hands. And there was a sign, there was a poster next to it. So I'm sitting there just analyzing the room. I'm scanning the church. It's just what I do now. And I look at the poster and it says, those who believe blindly are the ones that like have the most strength from God. Or something like that. Those who are blind, basically it said the blind believers are the strong ones. And I was like, wait, I just kept falling back into thinking, that just sounds like I'm back on Twitter. I was like looking at the poster and I'm like, man, this is just so plain to see that there is an influence here. The phenomenon is definitely very clear. I mean, there's all these, you know, mosaics and beautiful things in the church. And I've said it a million times, you know, humans flying down with wings, little babies with wings all over the place. The idea that even, you know, they have the Jesus thing on there. I've said that too to my I share a lot of strange things with my father, but I was like, you know, people can't talk about aliens, but then they think it's weird. But then you take them to a temple and you see a man nailed to a cross and they let the kids just look at that, but they don't let them watch an R-rated movie because of violence. And it's really graphic, right? It's a man nailed to a cross with blood coming down his head and out of his wrist and his ankles. And that's like that's just a repeated image that you see. And supposedly he came back to life. He could walk on water and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, dude, come on, people. The demons, it's just a label. It's all just labels. Maybe that was a hybrid because that's the only explanation I could give it, if you ask me, you know. But I don't know. So I'm sitting in this church and I'm seeing all this stuff, and it was just funny because after 48 hours of looking into UFOs, I went to this church, and it was just like, I looked up at the stained glass window, and it was just like, it turned green, and then the pyramid was just flying by because it looked just like it. I mean, it literally looked like the clouds, the triangle. It was a beautiful stained glass window, but
yeah. Well, isn't it always also that saying that God or Jesus only reveals him or herself to those who want to see?
Yeah,
as well.
It was something like that too. The poster said something like that, but I thought it was crazy because I was like, people have a hard time believing in UFOs, but they don't have a hard time believing in this, and this is all just based on belief.
Yeah, and if you read the Old Testament as well, you know, you got Ezekiel and Enoch and Elijah and, you know, all these old prophets who, you know, ascended into heaven and saw the 7 levels and spoke with cherubim and all those. And that's just another way of describing an abduction experience.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we look at it today.
That's why when I think there's so many strange things happening around us and so many strange things that we're conditioned to in our day-to-day lives, to where the UFO phenomenon and this topic is not that strange. You know, if you take a step back, you analyze reality for 2 minutes, and you realize that this kind of stuff is happening, and it's just normal. You know, like we're practicing rituals, like we're like born into these ritualistic practices, and we believe it, and it's fine, totally cool. If it's good for you, I applaud it. But it's also something that is clear as day. It's happening all over the world, and now UFOs are real. So what does that mean about the big picture? You know, what does that mean about the whole story? Because that's where my mind is just at. I can't get it out of there. I keep trying to come back. I'm like, all right, just focus on the conversation. Don't say anything crazy. Don't step outside the lines, because they're marking them for you. You know, they're marked right now. Don't say anything too crazy, guys. We don't want to be, we don't want to fuck up the conversation. So I just keep falling back into this thing where, I got really bothered when I heard people saying not to tell, your experience doesn't matter. And I get what they're saying doesn't matter for that conversation that they're trying to have.
Yeah.
But I think experiences do matter. I think they're always going to matter. I think they are the most important part of the phenomenon interacting with us. I mean, that's what it is. It's a phenomenon interacting with us. So I don't know. But man, this is a great talk. This is amazing.
Yeah. Like you said, trying to get people to believe it. I mean, Dan can tell you how much trouble we're having, with UAP Media UK, just to try and get any semblance of acknowledgement from, ministers or, anyone at an official level is, you might as well bang your head against the wall 25 hours a day before you get an answer. There's been some success with the media. We've had a few people following us on Twitter, and we've reached out to them and said, if you want help, we can help you out with any information or comments or quotes, things like that. So we are wanting to push the certain sections of the UK media in the right direction, where they can get credible information out into the public, rather than SAS squads trained with silly string to take down ETs who land in the middle of Suffolk forests, or we knew it was going to be hard. And we knew it was going to be slow progress, but we're starting to see the tide turn a little bit, aren't we, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be right to say, or fair to say, that there's plenty of interest from the people who write the stories. It's the institutions above them that are a little bit dubious to go full pelt into the story. But I've been feeling like the past week or so really encouraged by the mainstream embracing the news. The New Yorker article especially is just such a kind of a if you want a lowdown on the whole of the history, then just read this. You know, that's the shortest way that you're going to get that.
Yeah.
Skip the couple of paragraphs about Mick West.
Yeah. And every time the name Greer pops up, just
ignore it.
In the first couple of paragraphs, it's fine because the disclosure project and
that's true. Actually,
the press club, that was that kind of set a snowball in motion. But it was a good overview of how we've got to this point. And I posted on Facebook earlier, on my public profile, just saying, read this, then listen to this. And I put Terry Vert's interview with Chris Mellon on there. I said, and that should give you a good idea of, that should help you catch up a little bit for what's coming in the next couple of months.
Well, that's great. I mean,
people are going to have questions. So if you can point your friends and family in the right direction now, when this stuff is being drip fed into the media, then, at least they've got a head start.
Yeah. Look, people always say that the common everyday people that we're ready for disclosure, I don't know. Did you guys see what happened when coronavirus, hit, when the pandemic hit? I think that's a great example that it was just insane. It was insane. And then not even to mention all the other crazy stuff that happened in the last year, and I think we can do it because look at all the crazy stuff that's happening, and the earth is still turning. Things are still, happening. We're still surviving through it, but it is going to ruffle some feathers and shake up some worlds, turn some heads upside down. I wonder if the conversation, what do you guys think? The conversation in the United States is going to, because I think it'll be the United States, then the UK. I think that's just the way it goes, right? No?
Not this time, no. We'll be one of the last ones on the ship.
Why do you think that
I
is?
think it's fair to say that the UK conversation can't happen without America having theirs first.
No, absolutely not. I don't think anyone's conversation could start without the US taking the lead, as they have done.
Yeah.
There's rumors of some small European nation coming forward, isn't there, Dan?
Yeah. We don't really know which. But Tim McMillan at the very least has alluded to I mean, maybe they have, what was it, more sightings per capita than anyone else, so
and they got that Guy
makes sense. And
organization, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. They treat it in a respectable way. They probably have a bajillion case files that match the limits, but until those things are validated, they won't take those seriously. They being the US government, not they.
But to answer Andrew's question, you just add up.
Yeah.
Can we have both? Can we have government acknowledgement and they study it? Yeah. Ideal situation, that'd be great.
I think the only way they're going to be able to get over the turmoil of like, you guys fucking lied for all these fucking years. You guys fucking lied, because that's that's the first thing I think a lot of people are going to jump to, and then they're going to have the riots and the UAP riots, stuff like that. I think the only way they can do it is if they acknowledge it and then they study it and they make it a point to say like, we're going to study it and we're really taking this seriously. Then people will be like, oh yeah. Cool.
There'll have to be a little bit of like, maybe even once a year we'll produce a public facing report type thing. But the trouble is, if they do that, you're leaving a vacuum for, what was in the classified report? They're still lying to us. I kind of would love to get to a place where everyone can trust each other on this, because I'm tired of chasing my tail on it. Yeah.
If the
It would be
information is
nice.
out there, if the
Sorry,
information
go
is out there, you could, distribute it to the universities. You get fresh young minds looking at, the physics problems and the proportion problems and the maths problems. And rather than the same old scientists or the same old special access projects just looking at it and trying to, reconfigure how to solve the problem year after year after year, just get fresh eyes on it.
Totally. And I can't wait to see like courses in colleges on the UFO topic. I thought there was one. That's what I was just trying to pull up.
Yeah, I think Steve Mira put one together. You can study through, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't looked at it. I didn't sign up.
I think it was something like UFO train investigator course, I think.
Yeah. I am like, eventually there will be a place for something like that, but I'd like to not study nothing in essence. What did you look at? I don't know. For 3 years, I don't know, and it was a perfect UFO course because no one identified anything.
Well, I'd rather go down the Richard Donner route and just, look at the history of it, and then apply that to what's going on. Because I think once you kind of get a handle on what's going on now, and if it is acknowledged, then you can go back to, the older stuff and start retroactively working out what was going on back then.
Yeah. Like I have been like, I've gotten the vibe from certain people where it's like, you can tell like they only started really looking into this because of what happened in 2017. And I'm like, wait, I thought you were like totally in this. Like I've been in this game for a long time. I just haven't been openly with a YouTube channel talking about it and like going to UFO Twitter and hanging out with everybody and just being, eventually I just said, fuck it. I was like, screw it. But, yeah, I think at this, I feel like right now, I mean, you'll probably agree, Dave, and you too, Dan. Like I'm sure you, all of us can agree. No, no, I'm gonna say that there is a lot of hogwash from the past. It seems like you were right when you said that earlier on the show or on the live. That there was a lot of like obvious garbage in the past, but there's a lot of gold. There's a lot of gold there. You just have to sift through it. And we're still going to see that stuff today.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to go away, overnight. You're still going to get people who are saying, oh, that's what the government want you to think. This is what's really happening. And you're going to get, well, my sources haven't told me any of that.
Yeah. We're going to get trolls.
Yeah.
And gremlins. Trolls and gremlins.
Start a new show with a former Playboy star and make out that what you say is gospel.
Yeah, I want to say this clear here now and in front of everybody. Even if I have face-to-face contact and my best friend is an extraterrestrial, I promise that I will never speak to you like it's gospel. And don't trust me if I ever do that, because there's something very wrong with me if I start walking around trying to preach it like gospel.
Is that your like, if you need to alert everyone to an emergency via Twitter, that's what you'll start doing?
Yes. Yeah. If you guys see me wearing all white linen and just like, oh, like it's done. Like I've been totally brainwashed. Like it's probably not even me. I'm dead. I'm like somewhere. Yeah. It's just a clone. But
you come back and you look like you've been working out. And
yeah, I'm all buff.
You're charging
best money friends with Stephen Greer. Me and Stephen Greer run together every weekend.
He doesn't run. You can tell he doesn't run. It's all upper body strength.
He runs on all fours.
He runs on all fours. I was going to say the other day, I'm forgetting who this is. I'm not going to bring up his name, but I got this troll, dude, and he's like a grown ass man. I'm not going to say his name. He's a grown ass man, and he's like, he's bringing up the, I can't even remember the case. Like I totally ignore him whenever he tries to say anything. But it's crazy
That's
how many
Andy.
trolls there are. Huh? Yeah. It's crazy how many trolls there are out here.
Yeah. Well, I had one start of the week.
I did.
Yeah.
And I thought that was messed up. And I thought it was stupid that
I had
happened.
an art thief too.
Yeah. Dan's a
Which was
Yeah,
no
and your
fun.
art thief, which is kind of crazy too. Have you noticed all these small accounts coming in? Look, I think a lot of them, some of them, like I'll scan them and I'll look into them just to see like what's going on when they follow me. And some of them seem like maybe they're just creating accounts to because now they're into it because everybody's talking about it. So maybe they finally feel like they want to become part of the conversation, or they saw, I don't know, the big phone home or something, you know. But then some seem like total like fake accounts, but it's happening all the time. Is that just me that I'm seeing that, or is like everyone else seeing that too?
No, there's been
Seeing
quite a
that
few
too.
recently, yeah. But what it could be as well is like people who want to remain anonymous.
Yeah,
They're
or it
into
could
the
be
subject, but they can't be seen to be into the subject.
But
that's-
I was looking at one earlier and it was like Mark 45622155345. It's like no one types that in every time they want to log in. That's not a real person. No.
I was thinking, you know that people use bots and stuff and fake accounts to sway the narrative, sway the conversation. Like the Russians did it.
Yeah.
I heard about a story where the Russians did it. And, they like somebody will put up a picture of some crazy explosion or something. And if they get enough people tweeting about it and talking about it, it'll be picked up on by the news and it'll show up on the news because the news is sometimes that stupid.
Yeah, there's a guy called Dr. Charlie Ward who's doing a lot of that at the moment. I mean, he's on this big grift with someone else from the UK who I'm not going to name because he's lawyer happy. But he's using, this Charlie Ward guy is using pictures from like Afghanistan or Syria, of children, and then passing it off as, really recent events and claiming that there's some cabal element to it, or, there'll be a photo of a fireman with a child or a policeman with a child from years ago from some, horrific trauma event. And he'll claim that, it'll go with the headline, oh, police uncover mass child trafficking ring and rescue 10,000 children from a basement. And that's the kind of conspiracy shit that just, there's no place anywhere.
No.
But what you can do with these, if you see a new Twitter follower and they've only got a small account, is do a reverse image search on their profile pic, see what comes up.
That's a good idea.
Because if it's come from a stock library or something like that, then you can kind of figure out.
That's a good idea. I never thought about that. I was just wondering, like, is there an account out there creating all these accounts, trying to like sway that, like, and then in 3 months they're going to be like, something's going to happen, and all these accounts are going to start guiding the conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It's like you said, it's kind of standard practice now for areas to, at the very least, be able to control a trending hashtag. And like you say, that sways conversation in a really subtle but dangerous way. So yeah, we should expect it.
We should also check to see, because you can always see who they're following, and it's always like 1 or 2 people in the UFO community. If there's a trend in who they're following, then maybe it's that person creating all these bot accounts just to get more follows on their account,
Yeah, but, and if it says the account was created in like 2012, but there's no tweets on there, there's no likes, there's no, no replies or anything like that, then those are the ones you have to look out for.
Yeah, totally. But it's kind of crazy how dangerous that could get and how wild that could get quick. The bots, or like not even bots, just trolls, like a troll. How damaging how much damage some of these good ones can do.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, the one I had on Monday, he only had like 17 followers. But I recognized the name. I found out who, I had an email from a similar account name in 2018 about a different subject. Totally different subject, but related to an interview I put in the mag. And then this account comes out with this absolute nonsense on Monday, and he's posting like every couple of minutes. And so I'm just there reporting all the tweets, and I put something out saying, this is just whoever's doing this, it's absolutely not right. It's totally incorrect. And then a few people, other people started looking into it, and eventually he just shut down the account twice. And it's just, that really put it down on the week, because that's like the first time I've had anything like that in a good couple of years.
Yeah, totally. But there's some wild ass people out there. I'm trying to remember. I brought him up the other day with you guys in one of the chats we're in, and I can't remember his name now. He's the guy that said Lou Elizondo got kidnapped by evil aliens.
Oh, I know.
Michael Horn, wasn't it?
That's it.
Michael Horn.
I mean, I've been super respectful and I haven't said anything back. But then I just checked out to see like what his Twitter was looking like. And he was just talking mad shit. I was like, oh my God, this old man is crazy. I was like, he's just on another level. He's just, I'm sorry, but
it makes you feel less inclined to like spend time worrying over the wording of your email back and stuff though, right? You're just like, oh, I'm not worried about this now.
No, I was just like, I've never even responded back to anything. I was just like, well, I'm not going to respond back to you because you are obviously not being very, very clear here. He's like, oh, you fools, you fake ufologists, like wannabes. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. What is going on? Somebody give this guy a drink and calm him down.
Yeah.
Crazy ass people, man. Crazy ass people, especially like people are just crazy. Like what happens if you run into them somewhere and you know who did and you know who they are? Like I would be inclined
they're gonna act like they're your best friend. They won't mention it at all, and they'll think they've gotten away with it. But you'll know. No, so you can either go for like, I don't know, positivity first, or you can just take them out on sight. It's up to you.
No, look, I'm really nice. I've said this a bunch of times, but I think there's moments where like, little.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
No.
No, you got it. There's moments, like I said, you got to throw a person in a trunk every once in a while. It's just what has to happen. That's just how it goes. But you got to try and be the good guy. You just can't, you got to try and be good. But some people are just bad. Some people are just rotten apples.
Yeah. But I know who mine was anyway. I worked it out.
Well, you send me a message, and the next time I see him, if I ever see him.
On site, see? Mafia, right there.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. But
yeah, no, I'm just going to leave him. Knowing that I know who he is.
Just ignore him.
Out him at any time. Oh yeah.
Yeah, ignore him and do exactly what you did, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look, it was a long and beautiful conversation, but it was amazing. I love talking to both you guys, and
thank you.
And I think it's great, really good.
I think we should do it more often whenever you guys want. Anytime you guys want to bring something up, or maybe you want to highlight something from UAP Media or Shadows of Your Mind, or you have some new art, Dan, or anything. You guys just shoot me a message and we'll set this up like regularly if you want. Obviously, I'll be honest with you guys, I've been trying to get back on the ball because I've been a little out of the loop. And I think right now it's like all this news is just like overwhelming. And I'm like, what do I even talk about? Where do I even go with this? There's so much to talk about and there's so many people talking that it's like, I don't know. But conversation was beautiful. Let them know, guys, where they can find you. And also, just so everyone knows, I put your links down in the description of the video. So for Shadows of Your Mind, and I put your link tree, Zignal, and I put the UAP Media UK stuff. I also think Andy's podcast, and just everything else is down in the other links. There's always something there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically that's where you can find me. The links below, shadowsmagazine.co.uk or at Shadows Magazine on the Twitters, and I'm on Facebook, but I don't tend to look at it.
You can find me. I'm gonna do here. There you go. I went the wrong way. Yeah, you can find me there. Instagram the same. Rareable with my NFTs and my various kind of different patches and things like that. Yeah, all in my link tree.
Cool, guys. Thank you guys, everybody in the live chat, and thank you guys for being here, man. You guys rock.
Okay.
And we'll talk soon, okay, guys?
Yeah,
man, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Buenas noches.